out your heart and take it to my father. I'm a Viking. I am a Viking!
Hey everyone, ThatWyvernCritic here. Thanks to the support on the recent poll, today we'll once again be exploring an alternate timeline where Hiccup chose not to show mercy on the Night Fury and instead went for the kill. However, this time we're revisiting the story with a fully remastered script, improved storytelling, and a fresh look at how the Dragon Riders world might have changed forever. Without further ado, let's go! When Hiccup released the bola launcher that night, everything changed. The Night Fury crashed deep within the forest, and unlike in the original timeline, Hiccup never cut the dragon free. Instead, he did what every Viking expected of him. Armed with the knife Stoic had given him, Hiccup approached the wounded dragon and delivered the final blow, becoming the first Berkian to kill a Night Fury. The next morning, the village celebrated. The dragon that had haunted the island for years was dead, and the scrawny blacksmith's apprentice responsible for it had become an overnight hero. For the first time in his life, Hiccup was no longer seen as a burden. The other teenagers respected him, the villagers praised him, and for the first time ever, Stoic looked upon his son with genuine pride. Hiccup had finally done it. He had become the Viking his father had always wanted him to be. The disappointment that had lingered between them for years seemed to disappear overnight, replaced by something Hiccup had spent his entire life searching for: his father's approval. As the months passed, Hiccup's status on Berk only continued to grow. His intelligence and inventions made him a valuable asset in the ongoing war against the dragons, and his newfound confidence allowed him to grow especially close with Astrid. The two spent more time together than ever before, with Astrid becoming one of the few people Hiccup truly trusted. Yet, despite finally earning the acceptance he had spent his entire life chasing, something still felt missing. The celebrations faded, the praise became normal. The respect he had dreamed of no longer felt special, because while Berk viewed the death of the Night Fury as a turning point, the reality was different. The dragon raids continued. Unknown to the Vikings, the dragons were still being forced to attack by the monstrous Red Death, an ancient dragon hidden far beyond Berk. As long as the beast remained alive, dragons would continue stealing food and attacking villages across the archipelago, and without Toothless to change his perspective, Hiccup would spend the coming years becoming exactly what Berk wanted him to be, one of the greatest dragon hunters the archipelago had ever known. As the years passed, the war against the dragons showed no signs of ending. Raids continued across the archipelago, forcing many Viking tribes to put aside their differences to survive. One day, Berk received an unexpected visitor. The Berserkers had arrived to discuss the growing dragon threat, and with them came their new chief, Dagger the Deranged. To the surprise of many, Dagger had succeeded his father, Oswald the Agreeable, and now ruled the Berserker tribe himself. The meeting was tense, with Dagger showing little respect for Stoic, the Berkians, or the other chiefs present. However, there was one exception. Dagger had heard the stories of Hiccup, the young Viking who had accomplished what almost nobody else could and killed a Night Fury. More importantly, Dagger respected Hiccup's intelligence. Unlike most warriors, Dagger understood that battles were not won through strength alone, and he quickly realized that Hiccup possessed one of the sharpest minds in the archipelago. The two developed an unlikely friendship, and although few knew about it, Hiccup and Dagger continued to communicate long after the meeting had ended, sharing ideas and discussing the ongoing dragon war. Meanwhile, another alliance was beginning to take shape. The Outcasts and the Berserkers established friendly relations with one another, though Alvin still refused to work alongside Berk due to his long and bitter history with Stoic. As tensions across the archipelago continued to rise, the foundations of a powerful new alliance were quietly being laid. As the Dragon War raged on, a new power emerged within the archipelago. The Dragon Hunters, led by the Grimborn brothers Viggo and Riker, began forging alliances with several Viking tribes. In this timeline, Dagger's Berserkers joined their causes like the original timeline, but thanks to Hiccup's influence, Berk also joined this alliance. While tensions between the various factions remained high, all of them shared a common goal: ending the Dragon War once and for all. During one such meeting, Viggo used the Dragon Eye, an ancient artifact that had belonged to the Dragon Hunter tribe family for generations, to explain the true cause of the Dragon War. According to the knowledge preserved within the artifact, the dragons attacking villages across the archipelago were not acting entirely of their own free will. At the center of it all was the Red Death, an enormous Stoker-class dragon that forced countless dragons to bring it food under the threat of death. For years, Vikings had viewed dragons as the enemy, but Viggo argued that as long as the Red Death remained alive, the war itself could never truly end. For perhaps the first time in years, enemies found themselves united. The Hunters, Berserkers, and Berkians all agreed on one thing: if the Red Death could be eliminated, the war itself might finally come to an end. What followed was one of the largest campaigns in archipelago history. Fleets from multiple tribes united against the colossal dragon, and after a long and costly battle, the Red Death was finally slain. For a brief moment it seemed as though peace had finally arrived, but peace would prove short-lived. Far to the north, a man named Krogan had been carrying out a secret mission on behalf of Drago Bloodfist. While the tribe celebrated their victory, Krogan searched for something far more valuable than treasure or territory: a second King of Dragons, a Bewilderbeast. At the same time, Trader Johan had already revealed his true intentions much earlier in this timeline, and had begun operating independently. Upon learning of Krogan's mission, Johan attempted to secure the prize for himself. He stole the Dragon Eye and used it to guide him to Berserker Island with the intention of stealing the Wildebeest egg before either the Hunters or Krogan could reach it and profit of it. However, Johan had badly underestimated Krogan. Before he could escape, Krogan intercepted him and killed him, taking possession of both the egg and the Dragon Eye. With his mission complete, Krogan returned to Drago, unknowingly setting the stage for a disaster that would change the archipelago forever. The theft did not go unnoticed, however. Enraged by the loss of its offspring, the Berserker Bewilderbeast unleashed its fury upon Berserker Island itself. The destruction was catastrophic, leaving much of the island uninhabitable and forcing Dagger's people to abandon their homeland. With nowhere else to go, the Berserkers found refuge on Berk, where Dagger and Hiccup forged an even stronger bond as brothers in arms. Years passed, and as the young Bewilderbeast hatched and continued to grow under Drago Bloodfist's control, the warlord set his sights on an even greater prize. Eventually, Drago discovered the location of the northern Bewilderbeast nest, the very sanctuary protected by Valka and her Bewilderbeast for decades. The battle that followed was nothing short of catastrophic. Despite Valka's efforts, Drago's forces overwhelmed the sanctuary. Valka herself was killed during the conflict, and her Bewilderbeast was ultimately slain. With no alpha left to oppose him, Drago's own Bewilderbeast became the dominant king of dragons across the archipelago. Backed by an endless army of controlled dragons, the Northern Alliance quickly expanded its influence, forcing tribe after tribe into submission. At first, many believed Drago's rise would finally bring order to the archipelago. Instead, they quickly realized they had merely traded one tyrant for another. The Berkians, Berserkers, and even many of Drago's former allies began drawing uncomfortable comparisons between his rule and that of the Red Death. Once again, dragons were being forced to obey a master, and once again the entire archipelago was living under fear. The war had not ended, it had simply changed hands. Even the Grimborn brothers were horrified by what Drago had become. Viggo had always viewed dragons as dangerous creatures, but Drago was no hunter, he was a conqueror. When Riker openly questioned Drago's methods, Drago responded in the only way he knew how. Riker Grimborn was publicly executed, his death serving as a warning to anyone who opposed him. Upon learning of his brother's fate, Viggo disappeared into hiding, abandoning the Northern Alliance and his dragon hunter tribe entirely. With resistance growing across the archipelago, Berk and the Berserkers began organizing a secret rebellion against Drago's rule. Realizing the threat facing them, Stoic reluctantly reached out to Alvin the Treacherous, and after years of hostility, the outcast agreed to join their cause. For the first time in years, former enemies found themselves fighting on the same side. Meanwhile, Dagger approached Hiccup with information about someone he believed could turn the tide of the coming conflict. According to Dagger, this man possessed an intellect rivaling Hiccup's own and had spent his life hunting the deadliest dragons in existence. This was of course the famous Night Fury killer, Grimmel the Grizzly. Months later, following Dagger's recommendation, Hiccup, Astrid, and Dagger sailed far beyond the known reaches of the archipelago in search of a man whose reputation was feared, even among dragon hunters. After a long journey, they finally arrived at a remote island where they came face to face with Grimmel the Grizzly. At first, Grimmel appeared cold and uninterested in his visitors. However, his attention was immediately drawn to Hiccup's boots, which had been engraved with Night Fury's scales years earlier as a trophy from his greatest kill. Grimmel's expression changed almost instantly. The stories were true. Standing before him was the man who had accomplished what Grimmel himself had built his reputation upon, killing a Night Fury. For perhaps the first time in years, Grimmel felt as though he was speaking to an equal. The two quickly found common ground. Grimmel explained that he knew exactly what Drago Bloodfist was. In his eyes, Drago was not a hunter, strategist, or visionary. He was simply a madman obsessed with power. Unlike Grimmel and Hiccup, who relied upon intelligence and planning, Drago relied upon fear and brute force. If left unchecked, he would eventually drag the entire archipelago into ruin. Before the conversation could continue, another familiar face entered the room. Viggo Grimborn, whom had survived in hiding following Riker's death, and had secretly allied himself with Grimmel. Together, the two had spent months developing a plan to destroy Drago's empire from within. Their solution revolved around a modified strain of Grimmel's Deathgripper venom. Unlike the version Grimmel normally used, this altered mixture was designed to disrupt Drago's control over even the largest of dragons like Bewilderbeasts and return the Alpha to its natural instincts. Viggo then revealed that he had spent years studying Drago's operations and knew the routes he would use to move supplies and troops throughout the archipelago. With this information, the group finally had an opportunity to strike directly at the warlord himself. The attack came swiftly. As Drago's fleet traveled through one of its usual routes, Hiccup and his allies launched their assault. Amid the chaos, the modified venom was successfully delivered to Drago's Bewilderbeast. Almost immediately, the Alpha began breaking free from Drago's influence. Years of control and abuse vanished within moments as the great dragon returned to its wild nature. Realizing his empire was collapsing around him, Drago attempted to flee, but he never got the chance. From afar, Grimmel calmly raised his crossbow and fired. The bolt struck true, killing Drago instantly and ending the tyrant's reign once and for all. With Drago dead and the Bewilderbeast freed, the dragons under his control gradually returned to their natural behavior. The Northern Alliance collapsed, the rebellion succeeded, and peace slowly returned to the archipelago as tribe after tribe returned to their normal lives. Yet for Hiccup, something still lingered. For the first time in years, he found himself questioning the path that had led him there. He thought back to that night in the woods, to the wounded Night Fury and to the decision that had changed his life forever. Had killing the Night Fury truly been the right choice? For a brief moment doubt entered his mind, but it did not last. As the sun rose over the horizon, Hiccup followed Grimmel toward a newly discovered Light Fury nesting ground. Whatever uncertainty remained quickly faded as the two hunters prepared for yet another kill. The Light Fury nest was quickly decimated with the help of Grimmel's Deathgrippers, which relentlessly pursued any dragons that attempted to escape. Together, Grimmel and Hiccup led the assault on the colony, slaughtering its defenders and destroying the nests that had sheltered the species for generations. After years of hunting alongside Hiccup, Grimmel had finally accomplished his life's mission. With the extinction of the Night Fury's closest living relative had been wiped from existence. With his purpose fulfilled, Grimmel turned his attention to the very dragons that had served him for so long, using their own venom to control them one final time. He commanded the Deathgrippers to attack one another, ensuring they too would perish alongside the species they had helped destroy. With dragon populations rapidly declining, the warlords took hold of the former Northern Alliance. Using the Bewilderbeast hatchling taken from the Berserker Bewilderbeast so many years ago, they were able to dominate and control countless dragons. Unlike Drago, however, the warlords had little interest in conquest. Instead, dragons became a source of profit. Some were sold as weapons to rival tribes, others were used for labor, transportation, or entertainment. Dragon hunters were rewarded handsomely for capturing rare dragons, while wealthy collectors paid fortunes to own them. As the years passed, more and more species disappeared. The Buffalord, Dremelian, Skrill, Night Fury, and Light Fury were just one of the many dragon species driven to extinction. Others vanished entirely, their fate unknown. Yet perhaps the greatest casualty of all was Hiccup himself. In his quest to rid the world of dragons, he had slowly estranged himself from the very things that once made him human. His friendship with Stoic had been shattered long ago, his brotherhood with Dagger and Viggo had faded into memory, even his relationship with Astrid had become little more than a shadow of what it once was. In the end, Hiccup had succeeded in his mission. Dragons were no longer a threat to humanity, because there were almost none left. And that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed today's remastered How to Train Your Dragon What If. I hope you enjoy revisiting this alternate timeline with its updated story and improved script. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe for more videos like this. I do How to Train a Dragon What Ifs, theories, and future videos still to come. Thank you all again for watching, and as always, I'll see you all on the next one.